Last Thursday, President Obama held a news conference to talk about foreign policy and the devolving situation in the Middle East in particular. NBC's Chuck Todd asked him if he planned to seek congressional approval for military action against the Islamic State in Syria.
As our strategy develops, we will continue to consult with Congress, and I do think that it'll be important for Congress to weigh in, and or that our consultations with Congress continue to develop, so that the American people are part of the debate. But I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't have a strategy yet. I think what I've seen in some of the news reports suggests that folks are getting a little further ahead of where we're at than we currently are.
So it looks like the president was maybe trying to buy some space there, buy some time before making public any kind of a response. But at the same time, that being non-committal made it look like he didn't really know what he was doing there.
I mean, you can say on the one hand also that journalists need to provide some context, not just pull that little quote out. But that was a major mistake. I mean, that ranks right up there like clinging to guns or religion, or when Mitt Romney talked about the 47%. This is a really big deal because it reinforces existing stereotypes or beliefs or accurate information that people have about the president's foreign policy.
But I agree with you. It is a major gaffe, and it does open a window. But I also think that on the other side, you have a lot of people who are basically saying he's trying to be measured in how he deals with this, because he's getting a lot of push from both parties to do something militarily, to do something to stop ISIS. And I think one of the things that he's doing is like, wait a minute, we need to work with our partners. The last thing we need to do is go off into some sort of military conflict without having a game plan, without working with our partners, without knowing what the situation is. We're pulling out of Afghanistan now. We pulled out of Iraq. The last thing we want to do is go into this. So that's the way he's trying to, I guess, frame the argument. The problem is we in the media and those who are opposed to President Obama are using that gaffe over and over and over again.
Well, and I would say it's probably not going to change the president's behavior, because he's made it clear on any number of foreign policy issues, whether we agree with him or not in the positions he's taken, that he is going to stand back, he's going to be cautious, he's going to take the long view, whatever description you want to use for it. On the other hand, I thought there was a really good quote in, I think it was the NBC News piece that you published on our blog, where they quoted a political science professor who said, I think it was an honest statement. Whether it was a wise statement remains to be seen.
I do think that it was an honest statement, but I also think that it was one of those things where what he wanted to say was, we don't have a defined,
that we don't necessarily have a good strategy
or defined strategy, and we're still working on the strategy. And if he had said that, then
it may have been nothing. It would have blown.
Well,
right.
I don't know if it would have been nothing, because your enemies will use almost anything. But I do think that it would not have blown up the way it has.
And to show you just how complex and sort of ironic this whole situation is, if they're looking to formulate a strategy that works, somebody that the president might talk to is Vladimir Putin. The same ISIS folks targeted him in a video this week, and clearly the Russians have some influence in the Middle East in places that we don't. Let's see how that conversation happens in the midst of all that's going on in Ukraine.
Well, interestingly enough, former Obama spokesman Robert Gibbs went on MSNBC's Morning Joe and talked about how hard it is to sit by and watch when a gaffe like this happens.
We all know it was a slip. But that obviously everybody in the White House had to gasp when he did that, right? You've been there when, he's human. Mistakes are made.
I think whenever you have to go out next and say what somebody meant to say or what somebody was trying to say, means you're trying to explain that winsable moment that you see.
I mean, to me, it's one of those things, and I say this to my students all the time. It's not what you meant to do, it's what you did. And you try to pull it back as best you can, but it's still out there, and you can try to explain it away as best you can, but at some point you're just going to have to directly come out and answer it, and I don't think that they've actually done that yet, or I don't even know if they can.
True, but the difficult thing is that we as journalists also criticize politicians for parsing every single thing they say and doing nothing but going to their talking points. When stuff like this happens and the whole world comes down on your head because of it, you're going to be more inclined to manage the message and less inclined to do it.
And less inclined to be willing to give accurate, I won't say accurate, but honest information about what's going on, because you're pillared and vilified for it.
Yeah.
There was another very small, well, at least from where I sit, it should have been a very small issue that came out of this news conference on social media and then into our nightly newscast in the morning news the next morning, Obama's tan suit. And Ernest, seeing you wearing a light jacket here, to me, it makes it even less of an issue.
I think within the general populace, you probably had more people commenting on the fact that he was wearing a tan suit than the gaffe that he made. I think within the political arena, they talked about the gaffe. But everyone else, I mean, Twitter blew up because he walked out, had on a tan suit, and everybody was going like, "Whoa, wait a minute! You know, we know it's summer, but you're the president, tan." And it was sort of shocking for those who see their presidents in a certain way.
No, with all of the infotainment focus of a lot of the news that we see these days, that was going to be mentioned anyway, but it also plays into, I have to say, the narrative, the president who was off on vacation while the world is burning, and now he comes back with his casual
and he's still on vacation.
not taking it seriously.
Yeah.